Quale tonale, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Grassy Logic. I can't even say my own show's name right now. Season 4. Today, I got a special guest, Miggy. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I love having you back on the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Like hanging out.
Of course, man. And Miggy, if you guys don't know, he's from the Legalization News Network. Legalization News Network. I got to make sure I say that right. Over on YouTube, they break down a lot of good stuff. Him and Tom, his partner, who isn't able to join us today, they break down a lot of good stuff that's going on nationally, certain states and stuff, and a lot of good news and stuff. So if you guys have a chance, go check them out. I know I go watch their content too, and sometimes Tom has some really great breakdowns because he is a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but he is. Yeah. And he has some really good breakdowns. So, thank you so much for joining me. And I love hearing your perspective too, Miggy. Being a veteran as well too. So, I always respect that. But without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone else who doesn't know who you are and hasn't seen the show before.
No, I appreciate it, dude. I go by Ep4 for years for activism. And then the show's Cannabis Legalization News, if you're going to search it on YouTube. But man, we've been doing it for now almost like 6 years. And throughout that time, we've the 6630507 has expired. Different states have legalized it. In this time, rescheduling, the ball started rolling with that, and we're not there yet. And then the farm bill thing, right? Like we've kind of I've been observing legalization for like the past 20 years, if not more, since I was 17. So. Sometimes it seems like we're in the same circle jerk, man, when it comes to policy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are moving forward, though. That's the thing.
It's a very slow forward, and then sometimes we get pushed back a little bit, but we at least get to kind of shuffle.
Well, I think everybody got too excited. At least people who are selling for the hemp thing. With the farm bill.
Yeah. As soon as like 2018-19 was an interesting time. Because all that stuff happened, and then you just see this like huge boom, and then right away you just see a huge drop.
It's about people taking risk, right? I mean, and then the CBD or the THC drinks, I never saw that coming. As far as big companies actually taking embracing it, like really, like wow. Chicago, they're going to be selling THC drinks coming up, but I don't know what they're going to do come November, because that's when the real rules crash in on everybody. And I was in Chris 420 Blazes chat the other day, and he sells those weed cigs. That's his brand or whatever. And I had 2 questions for him. I was like, where do you source, and are you going to be selling after November? And for sourcing, I mean, like the hemp thing, dude, like I get it. Like I used to try and sell weed back in the day when I was a kid. I'd buy like a pound, or not a pound, but a quarter pound or an ounce, depending on what you get a hold of. That's all it came down to, man. There was no like reliable source, and if they had a reliable source, that's probably a shady motherfucker. But
exactly.
Well, that's the thing, though, man. Like to be a good supplier, you need a good source, and so like I always had weed, just not large amounts, and then try to sell it, and you understand what it takes to like pay your rent or fucking have a retirement or logistics of a thing, right? Like, and then, one of the things I forgot to add was, since Tom and I have started this podcast, we went a retail license in Illinois. So we're going to be opening up a pot shop right across the street from the courthouse in Pekin, Illinois. So it's pretty cool. I mean, the city embraced us. They asked us to come in. They gave us a $100K subsidy for like building shit. So like we're really being embraced. It's taken almost 3.5 years to get to where we're at, and that's just from the license being approved to the paperwork to get to where we had the license to where we could actually look for property. We got rejected 3 times because we were too close to a school or a religious institution. So like none of this shit's fucking easy. But like the hempsters, and that's the other thing too, is in Illinois. I went out there to check out the place and show face, and I bought I legit bought a pre-roll at a Shell gas station, like fucking hemp. And then that shit's everywhere. It was everywhere, flour in jars and shit. And it's just flour. I mean, that's what it's weed, right? And so like I get it. Like I would sell anything that was like weed related, but now that we have like states that have legal traceability and track, I hate seed to sell, but also if I were to like find something I like, I can make sure I get that again. You know, here in the Washington State market, I just go to a store. The only thing that keeps me away separated from weed is my paycheck right now. You know what I mean? Like that's all I need to do. I just walk in the store, prove I'm over 21, and walk out. And you know, that's really what legalization plus protections, right? Like hemp didn't do anything. It just kind of delayed it. And it's the only reason why
cause more confusion.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what I say. Like I wasn't gonna. I never wanted to sell THCA and be like that guy, right? Like I didn't want to be like, yo, this is fire. Because in that chat with Chris 420 Blaze, that I asked him like where he got his weed, and he's like, he gets it from drop shipment guys, like from fucking a broker, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he was saying this same broker is probably the same person that sells base smoke shit, who's another person that made a lot of money. Like these guys made a shit ton of money, and I you know, good on you, but that train's about to end real quick, and you know, they should be worried about just trying to get rid of product because. You know, the question to me has always been like the sourcing. Everything about this industry, whatever you want to call it, has been about the farmer and the grower, right? Like the outlaw days, you got it from a guy or you knew a guy, and now you just got to know a location, at least depending on the state you're in. But yeah, I started rambling, dude.
No, you're good, man. Like, you know, you're giving us a good update and everything what's going on. I was like, shit, I didn't have to ask too many questions. This is great. I'll let him talk. But you know, thank you for the update. You know, I kind of wanted to, you know, pick away a little bit at the, you know, the licensing process. You know, the differences between like here, you know, New Mexico and like Illinois. You know, just hearing that, you know, I'm like, holy crap, you know, because here, you know, it's not as hard. You know, it doesn't cost as much, and we still have our bureaucracy we have to go through and all the other little steps and stuff. It still takes time. Yeah. But you know, hearing that, you know, it's still like, holy crap, you know, like it's a big effort over there, and like do the cities have control over how many dispensaries can be in certain particular areas, right?
Oh yeah, every state I think has their little laws or rules on that. And like you guys were one of the first ones that you did it the best, where it was like like open license almost, and you needed like if you want to be a grower, water rights are a thing out there, right? Like and
it's
but
fair.
like
Desert.
I know growers who are in city limits and they're using the city water, right? Like you always kind of find your workaround, and you know how your environment is. I think you guys did it right when it came to like almost like pure capitalism, right? Where like the best weed wins.
Yeah.
Tom loves limited licenses. I think they're dumb as shit, but like he's all about like control the market. And again, the hemp thing really fucking diverted the whole conversation. Because did you guys have a hemp issue there? Were they selling pre-rolls or anything?
So they were, but it wasn't as much as an issue as it was like in Texas. Like at the legislature, you know, it became an issue when they brought in the parents that had the kids that had the issues. But for the most part, you know, these people were trying to follow the law as much as possible, and they were. There was no regulation that the state set forth to do anything about these issues. Instead, they wanted to just ban it. But yeah, it didn't pass. But for the most part, no. You know, we legalized cannabis, you know, right after, you know, this whole hemp thing kind of started. So it wasn't really kind of like seen here. I actually did work at an American Shaman CBD shop right before we legalized it. And right before that is when the Delta 8 stuff happened. I was, you know, seeing all this shit happen real time and, you know, talking to the people involved and, you know, kind of figuring out what's really going on. And yeah, it was really only there for probably 6 months before we legalized it. And then, you know, it was just free game, and you know, all adults were able to consume it. So it wasn't too much, but it was here. And we do have hemp farms, you know, still today, you know, we still have hemp farms. But we only had one facility that was making Delta 8 and all that. The rest of it was being imported, you know, into the state. So it wasn't like it was something that was like widespread throughout the whole state. One thing I will say though, that we did have an issue was on the legal side, like the adult use side, there probably still are a bunch of people that are putting like Delta 8 and stuff like that into regular cannabis, and you know, and saying it's dank weed, this and that shit, you know, but it's really just Delta 8. That is something that is, you know, I don't want to see. But to be honest, dude, the only reason why that whole industry existed, like the Delta 8 and HHC, is because cannabis is illegal in the first place, and then we separated it by definition into hemp. Because like when I think of hemp, I'm thinking rope, paper, shirts, you know, shoe tops and stuff like that. I wasn't thinking of, you know, THCA and all that, you know, because then you're just talking about the same damn plant.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same damn thing. That's all we did is we just took it and said, well, now if it's 0.3%, it's not cannabis, it's hemp.
Yeah.
And so, and people ran with it, and I don't blame them. But we caused so much shit. There were so many issues that we caused from that, and we're still paying for it right now. And to be honest, in November, we're going to be paying for it even more.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, what's funny is like one of the things that how it affected our market back in the beginning of when the Farm Bill was signed, and they figured out they could extract, turn Delta 8 to Delta 9. One of our extractors was using that in their extraction. So like they were adding the hemp extractants to their regular like rosin or whatever the fuck they're making, right? Stuff they use for edibles sometimes probably. But like it's really unfair because like most of the cannabis people had to follow like the rules, right? Just to grow X amount. But then you have this one extractor who was pulling in hemp byproduct and didn't even have to count for it when it comes to that seed to sell shit. So that was one of those things. But like it was in our adult use market that they were doing this in. And story has it, they asked first if they could do it. This was such a new thing. And the fun police were like, yeah, go ahead, do it. It's the same thing. But then when they realized what the fuck they approved, they're like, yeah, no, don't do that. And matter of fact, they later down came out with a rule that they were entitled to regulate all cannabinoids type shit, like the hemp, just to avoid the infusion into that market, into our adult use market. But we never had like hemp products being sold at the vape shops or the gas stations here, just because people want good weed. I mean, we have, if you want to smoke, we got $10 ounces. If you want some shitty down shit, there's, people are going to smoke anything, in my opinion. But
the $20 ounces, prove it.
Yeah, no, 100%. But you probably, hopefully, they're using it for butter and shit. But
I fucking hope so. I did, when I was in Washington, I literally picked up like an ounce of trim for my best friend who I was staying with, and I made her butter. And that was my intent of buying the trim. And I was like sitting there, and I was like, I asked the dude, I was like, people smoke this on. He was like, yeah. And I'm like, brother.
Yeah, dude. But that's the thing about the connoisseur or the consumer, right? Like a lot of times they don't give a F.
No, they give no shits.
Yeah, and the people, unfortunately, in prohibition states, what's going to happen when November comes? That's going to be a fun. Or you might go back to the backpack boys type thing, right? Like, isn't it funny how, like, in cannabis, branding is so important and a thing for a lot of people, but also in the origins of what it used to be, like real trappers didn't have social media. You didn't know who the real trappers were because they don't want to fucking get caught. You had a network, you drop shit off, and but that's why when I used to sell, like, break up my ounce or whatever, that's why I knew, I was like, man, I don't want to hold pounds. I don't want to worry about making sure I can distribute it, because I was able to pay for my rent out of college, with just nickel and dime shit. But that was a portion of rent where I shared it with like 4 other people. It wasn't like I was balling. I just, you know what I mean? Like 2 balls.
Got you by.
Yeah. But 2 balls, you need to cross state lines and push those pounds. And
especially back then.
Yeah.
Like back then, especially, these days it's a little different, but back then for sure. And it's a lot's changed, in the industry. Now we're plagued by AI, everywhere. And, we have all this AI stuff going on in the industry. And, has that kind of infiltrated your cannabis industry yet? Because it's kind of starting to leak into mine.
I mean, just with like the logos, but that's kind of always been like, I saw that at MJ Biz 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where, I was like, oh, that's a cool logo. Did you use AI? He's like, yeah, that's Mid-Journey, but like,
nice
whatever.
name drop.
But like, but that was like one of the first ones for like the photos, the pictures and images. But like, we use when it comes to low level, none of these people, now if you're like Curaleaf or something, you should have no excuse why you're using AI. You should, have a real art department, or something.
Yeah.
Or
exactly. Like, I do packaging as well. And we don't use any AI. We have an artist and he does all this stuff for it, and like there's no AI involved with that process. But for my podcast, I got an episode every week and I got an art piece every week. So I was like, I don't pay for that. I got to use AI for that. Sorry. Like that's just my podcast. But, for my actual business where people are paying and they're expecting an original product. No, we actually use like an artist for it, and when we actually pay for it. So that sense, it makes sense. But if you use it as a tool, I don't see why not. Like here in New Mexico, I'm hearing of grows using like AI recipes and platforms and stuff like that, for their grow. And I was like,
wow.
What I'm thinking in my head is they used a prompt, got the whole scheduling and everything for the cannabis, and gave it to the grower, said follow this word for word, and we're gonna go with that. And like, to me, that is dangerous as shit.
It is, but they can accidentally hit or miss, right? Like any of this. As
it is.
The other day I was smoking some shit, and I was kind of thinking about that, how like all of this always comes down to the grower, but then eventually in this industry, we don't talk about the brewmaster or whatever when you drink a beer, or the like a good bourbon. You don't identify the company, you don't identify the person behind it. And that's probably maybe bad, like it'd be nice to like have a craft grow where I can be like, we have a couple out here where the people will come and do meet and greets at vendor days, we call them here. They'll show up and hang out, but like eventually no one's going to give a fuck about or really they don't now. If they're buying hemp, they don't.
That's true. And like maybe some good can come from it, where we can come back and consolidate a little bit more and kind of figure out our community and industry and stuff. Because here in New Mexico, some companies, when you talk about like a big one, it's like, oh yeah, dark matter, they put out fire, or I think they have dark matter over in Oregon. I don't know if you've checked them out at all. They're like near Oregon and Idaho. That's where they're from originally. Okay. They're putting out some really good fire, great rosin. They're winning awards and stuff. Nice. But yeah, I have no clue who the grower is. Like exactly who. Yeah. But there's some other companies back in the day that we do still. So like it's like lingering still kind of there, but it's heading more towards in like the commercialization. Yeah, because drinking a beer when I was younger, I didn't give a shit who the brewer was. It tasted the same every time I drank it. So I didn't really care. But who knows? Maybe cannabis can change that. Maybe we will kind of, because what I'm seeing already different from cannabis and alcohol is highly, highly monopolized. And it was highly monopolized for a long time. I mean, I've said this before on the show, microbrews have only been around for like, 30, 40 years. Yeah. And, only in the past like 15 have they really become more dominant, figures that people like. Cannabis didn't really take that route. It started kind of mom and pop, and then it kind of went corporate. But then you have states like here in New Mexico where we're like, whoa, we're going to actually focus on the mom and pop and not really kind of cater to the corporations, because that didn't really end up very well for us when we did that on the medical side. Yeah. And some people want to argue, other ways, whatever. But we've seen positives from it. I've run into some really great cannabis on the mom and pop craft side. They grow 200 plants. And actually, I went to a grow the other day. He had maybe 50 plants in there, all living soil, great looking plants, just putting out quality, nice. Just like really focusing on quality. Right next door is another one we're washing for them and stuff. And, I love running into product like that. And sure. I don't get that in Colorado. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's not the kind of thing that I see. And so I hope that we kind of change that from when alcohol went, because they went to the super corporate thing. It's this way, and we got used to it. And then the micros finally showed up, or, the microbrewers finally showed up. We started to get a little changed. I think cannabis we're set up to be different, but at the same time, it's going to take a whole community. I mean, I'm only one person, and we're only one state with 2 million people. So,
I was saying, I think you're onto something, but also a good consumer, like in Washington State, we have yet to get penetrated by GTI or Curaleaf. Like, not that I know of. I mean, they could have bought some brands for all I know, but I'm trying to think that the comparison would be like for cookies. You know how cookies all of a sudden now is stagnant? Like, here in Washington State, they were just a grow brand, but they were also licensing. See, I think the licensing thing is going to be, it is the dumbest thing right now. Like, it's a novelty thing, right? Like, it's cool to buy, like, here we had like stick figure weed for a minute. Like, he just did a contract with a grower. That's what he did, right? Whereas cookies, they're like, this is our Gary Payton or whatever, but that maybe their SOPs are not that good. I don't know why, but like, I just don't like cookies. Like, they never were like, it wasn't that weed that I was like, this is worth. Like, at least here in Washington State, right? Like I think in New Mexico they closed out too. Are they still out there?
No, they're popping here actually. And to be honest, most people I talk to actually enjoy it. And I think here, because the people who grow it, do the grow here, they're called Blue Whale. I think they're actually just doing a good job.
Nice.
It was what it could be.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people do hold it, and like it's actually pretty decent weed. But one thing they are doing is that they did buy a bunch of backstock from this company from Schwaz or MedMen. They
Yeah.
had a bunch, so they're giving weed away to people whenever they buy it. So some people are just excited to go to Cookies just to get like a free gram or free pre-roll or free eighth or something, because they bought a bunch of backstock. Because the 20,000 plants thing, that's still a lot of plants, dude. For like a state like our size. Yeah, like there's people that have 20,000 plants in the state. And like, don't get me wrong, it's not a lot. We still have some that have like 10,000, 8,000, and they're just putting out plants
Yeah.
to put out plants, and it's a race to the bottom. And so hopefully, because like they're supposed to change the plant counts whenever the demand changes, but it just hasn't happened because they don't want to get sued. And so that's like our big thing is we would probably see a little bit more competition and better pricing if they actually change the plant counts. To be honest, everywhere, because everywhere that I look, we've been seeing, you and I are on the same page with the licensing. Most states, when it comes to licensing, they kind of did it wrong, and it's almost like they don't want to admit it. And like sometimes it's right in their face that they should lower the plant counts, but they refuse to, and they just increase the plant counts and then get tighter on the dispensaries. And I'm like, bro, what is going on here?
Well, I mean, like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, like, plant counts, I think, it's sourcing. You're first off, you guys are feeding Texas too still. So, like, if I could still, like, it's a grower's paradise. But if you know what you're doing, like, if someone extends their plant count and they think they can meet it, right? Because growing's hard, man. I can't even grow 2 plants, let alone fucking 100. And then you're like, oh, you did a good job. Do a 200 now. Oh, fuck. It doesn't work that way.
It's like I barely slept at the 100.
Well, and then you got to worry about extra space, circulation. There's other environmental concerns and things that you got to take. Like, when you double something like that, it's not just as simply as like you said, OpenAI. OpenAI says I can just do this. Well, it's not. It's a living fucking plant.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's thinking of it as a 0 and 1 kind of situation, not it does this kind of situation.
I did see though at MJ Biz 2 years ago. I didn't go last year, thankfully, from what I heard. But I did see, like, you're talking about AI. One of those like security surveillance plant cameras. They were able to detect like moisture, yellow in plants. Like it was actually looking at the plants and seeing for like physical shit. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Like if they were there 2 years ago, who knows where they're at now? But
yeah, and I've seen that little bots that can pull the weeds and stuff like that. And,
yeah,
that is actually cool. I like that. But when you try to take your current grow and just base it off of a Chat GPT kind of recipe, it's like, ooh, you should have tested that on like at least a couple plants.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have no grown experience.
No, for 100%. Or if it's like a big corporate grow or something, like
seriously,
some of these corporate companies are like really hurting because they made a wrong decision somewhere, and the cannabis industry is hard. Scaling up the plant, I kind of feel that there's a happy medium, and we've met it. It's just we refuse to stay there. You know what I mean? We keep thinking that we can scale this up to what big alcohol does, and like maybe with cannabis we can't. Maybe there's a big threshold, like maybe we should stay at 2,000, 3,000 plants tops. Like to kind of keep quality up and to ensure that we're not putting out moldy weed or botrytis weed or weed that has HLV and all this other stuff. Like it's gross to even think about that, but we could probably mitigate a lot of those issues by lowering the plant counts and putting out quality. And I get it, like a lot of I have to tell people this myself too, that the consumer market, when it comes to it, is split up in different little divisions, and the connoisseur is the very minority small part of the consumer market. Like it's one of the most smaller parts of the market, and the rest of everyone else doesn't give a shit. Like my girlfriend, she gives no fucks. Like I'd rather go, if I'm going to smoke with her, I go get the weed. I'm like, no, I'm going to go get the weed because you're just going to go in and ask them for the cheapest and the best or whatever. Like I'm going to go in and pick this because like, I'm not going to enjoy it. And she's okay with it because it is a little better, but we would have better quality products more readily available. And here in New Mexico, we're starting to see it more. And it is nice because, we don't have, 100,000 plants like Oklahoma or something. And, like, don't get me wrong, I think they've changed that, but they had unlimited.
Yeah. But again, I think the best weed will win, that's what it comes down to. But, and then as far as that plant count thing, who's going to be the decider is going to be the MSO, right? Like,
Yeah.
or whatever company who's a big grow. If you're that big, you're obviously making some money. But like, at what point is that bottom line? I don't know. But I'll tell you the metrics when it comes to opening a store, though, because as soon as we get that store going, I'm very curious on like. And again, whatever I learn about running our store coming up, it's going to be specific to just that area. Pekin, Illinois, like all the consumers, whether I'm told a lot of these people like to have vapes. Like, oh, and another thing about the market out there, dude, it's like Vegas, where like it's just a tablet. You don't even get to see the weed or nothing. So you walk into my store, you're going to be greeted by a bud tender. You'll get a tablet, ask you what you're looking for. Then check. Here's the word, and this is all part of the rules. So it's not like my doing. So you're going to select your product, and then they're going to enter it, and then someone on the other side of a door is going to pull it out of the vault, put it in this little in between section of the vault area in this retail area, and then the door turns and they give you your product. Like there's like 2-3 hands before it gets like. And again, none of this legalization shit, like the hemp thing, like. People are like, oh, we have legalization, but there's no protections, there's no rules for consumers. So that's not true. And then Illinois, who have like 5 hands, but then Michigan, I think they still do deli style.
Yeah, we have both here. You can do prepackaged or deli style here. Yeah, you can choose. You can do both at the same time if you want.
Oh my God, I wish like that. I missed those days, but I've acclimated to. It's been 14 years here in Washington State, and it's been all packaged. The weed's getting better with the prices, but in the beginning it was hella high for like some decent bud.
I remember actually my best friend who lives there. I've been visiting her, throughout the years, and I've been seeing the price drop. And at first I'd get an eighth. It was like $50-$60. Now I go get an eighth, and it's Fat Panda, So like I'll go get the same one to do a check. And now it's like $30-$40, $20-$30, and like the price is going down and down. Yeah. The quality varies now. At first I was a little reliable, and I don't know what other great products there are. So when I'm up there, let me know, because I'm actually going to go visit at some point again. So let me know, and I'll see what other new brands there are, or who's doing good or what. And actually Cinder was here for a little bit in New Mexico, but they actually packed up and went back to Washington. And so they didn't like the open market.
Well, that's the thing, right? There's like, I think people expect to dominate a certain market. Like, oh, I know I have good weed. Well, so is that other guy. So, what differentiates? And again, every state is different. All their markets are different. So, giving advice to one would be like redundant when it doesn't affect another. Because, you guys have. I love the licensing thing. I was like, man, if I lived in New Mexico, I don't know if I'd be growing weed. I'd probably open a store right away and make as many friends with people who grow weed. Because growing good weed's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I can smoke good weed all day. Growing it.
And anybody can grow weed, but growing good weed or great weed, that's a total different story. That's a lot of time, a lot of care, a lot of love, and a lot of knowledge, and a lot of fucking up.
Yeah. Knowledge, 100%. Like I've drowned plants when they were seedlings. I've raised boys. Oh, look, the balls. And I've had like one good crop in my life, and that was it. And that one good one, it took a lot of care and attention. Like that was it, man. Like any good, I can grow a salad. That's about it.
Well, I was watching you grow last year. I think I don't know, you had something outdoor growing last year or something.
2 big
like that.
boys. The balls
yeah.
Well, and then the balls.
That's what happened to them. Okay.
Later. Yeah, they didn't come out till later though, too. Like that was the other part. So like
that sucks.
2 came out early. I was like, all right, got to chop those fuckers down. And then the last one, it was like the last month in April October. It was like right before October where I saw the big balls. I was like, God damn it. Like I didn't know if it hermied or what, but like I'm gonna try and do indoor next year, but we'll see.
Yeah, let me know if you need help. I mean, I can only help so much because it's dry as shit here and it's humid as fuck there. So, but let me know.
Yeah, that's all good, man. No, I appreciate it. That's the thing, though. It's how you learn. I mean, like, you learn how you can fuck up, and you can learn how you can do good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you're paying a good grower, right? Not
exactly. And some places don't. They'll pay, $12-$14 for a guy to come who's straight off the streets, who's just hardworking. Don't get me wrong. I respect a hardworking man, but if you're going to want to have great quality product, you need that quality grower to go along with it, you know. And a lot of places don't even want to pay them. I'm like, dude, you guys are messing up,
No,
you
that's
know.
pretty
So
smart.
right. Well, let's jump over to the hemp rescheduling update and stuff like that. I know we were kind of shooting the shit for a little bit, getting all each other kind of updated what's going on and everything. But I appreciate that, and we're going to talk about Washington more here in a little bit, so we have an opportunity to kind of talk about the growing thing and stuff like that when we get to the legislative part. So, real quick, let's talk about the hemp ban and the rescheduling stuff going on. So, what are you seeing from this whole thing?
Well, with the hemp ban, they really are scrambling, man. They try and do that CBD. One just submitted a CBD only regulation, which is dumb as shit. And that with the farm bill, I saw that in the beginning where, I mean, you saw it since you were working in the industry, like working at the shaman place was, and I think didn't they have a lawsuit or something later on, but whatever.
I think so. Yeah.
But like, how many times like they were hustling CBD pillows? You know, once like Charlotte's Web and all that shit came about, and then people realized it's helping with seizures and other things, but no one questions like the sourcing of it, like being like it's from weed, right? So, and most of the kids, I think there were some kids that were smoking it, but most of it's always oil, right?
Yeah.
And so you had that momentum that led to the farm bill, and then the avalanche of fucking CBD products that came after the farm bill, and then probably like 2 years after that was the experiments with THC and pushing that threshold, and then the ones selling flower. And again, it always takes someone to take a risk, right? Because someone was selling flower, and if they got arrested or whatever, they were going to say it's fucking hemp, whereas it's just really weed. And if you were to test it, it would test as weed. So, but I never understood, because the hemp grows need to be licensed too. So the whole traceability thing. You okay? Everything good?
Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, I heard something going on. Keep going.
Okay. But like with the hemp traceability thing, I don't know if all of these were 100% American or 100% follow through from legal hemp growers, and no one knows. So like this thing that came about with the fucking budget, and then the deadline for, they were definitely overreached with the seeds. Like that was bullshit. But
that was horseshit. And the clones, that was stupid.
Well, no, not the clones. They didn't touch clones. So that's what Tom's workaround is. So like I was like, Tom, how are we gonna Yeah, he's like, well, if you give a sprout, you can ship that, because now it's no longer a seed. You can shed it in like a culture or whatever. But I was like, man, that's still shitty. You have seeds that I've held for like 6 years and then popped them later. When I used to live in Tucson. So like, that's the beauty of seeds. They can be dormant. You can hold on to them. Having a pop seed means you got to grow it right away. But like, as far as that, the farm bill goes, they're all fucked. You're all fucked. I mean, how are you pushing to sell product right now? Like, empty your shelves. If you're a hemp grower, I hope it's industrial use, then you got nothing to worry about. But if you're a hemp grower, like, oh man, I want to sell my Zaza, you better figure out how to grow weed.
Yeah, or you better figure out how to make some rope.
Or get a real underground, how it used to be, network.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to, or move to a state that has a legal industry going on, or join your state's legal industry, because that might be your only way to go. Because I don't see a fix anytime soon. I mean, we just had a partial shutdown the other day, in the whole nation. So I mean, and cannabis wasn't even brought up. And to be honest, they've been punting on this issue for years. The Donald Trump executive order, that was just a happy little pat on the back thing, and just hey guys, can we get a little help here? And it was a push. That's all it is. And there was really nothing that came from it. Still to today, we haven't seen any changes from it.
Well, I mean, they're 2 months late with the Epstein files, so it's like, right. I mean, come on, we're gonna bomb Venezuela. Fucking, what else did we do? Threaten fucking Greenland. I don't know. Like, we're gonna fight Canada next. I fucking don't know. Like, will we see weed? Will we care about legalization if you don't have it in America? Who fucking knows?
Right? We're gonna get No America before we get GTA 6.
Hey, man.
That's true, though. That's true.
I'm a liberal about to go buy a gun, dude. I'm just...
I know, right?
And not to fact check anyone, but Venezuela was a kidnapping. It was not a bombing.
Well, and then we got murders in Minneapolis, but like,
Oh man, yeah. I guess we have more problems going on right now.
That
than
was
just
activism.
cannabis, yeah.
I was going to say, as far as the timeline for the rescheduling, I think I was seeing another YouTube channel that went through this whole timeline, and they're actually talking like early 2027 by the time it goes through all the loops, goes through all the different meetings, committees, all the fighting back of everybody that's going to fight it and the whole thing. So they're not talking anything till like maybe first quarter 2027 until you actually get a result on anything like that. But still, that's kind of what it was looking at.
I'm just gonna start looking up when you talk. So like I'm talking to God. God, is that you?
Yes.
But
yes, God.
there you go. It could be a year, but like, you just need a ball to be rolling forward, right? Like the DEA still like sitting on it as far as. And again, I don't understand half of the legislative process. Tom's like all on that. That's why I'm friends with Tom. Like I've partnered up. We both believed in legal weed. I was one of the ones that was chanting legalize it now. I just didn't know how, right? Thought like the president could do a humny dumny, but like there's a lot of like things that make sense because like you want protections as a consumer. I'd like it to be rescheduled because it locks it in as medicine. It identifies it as medicine. This organic medicine, for wellness. Every state that I've seen that had medicinal, and you tell me if it's different where you're at, because you guys had medical first, right?
Yeah, and we actually had medical all the way back in the 70s, like late 70s.
Wow. Holy shit.
We were actually the first state to have medical in the whole nation. And it was dissolved sometime in the 80s. But yeah, then our second program came in 2007.
Okay, so it's like Alaska when they had it legal for their residents, but then the federal government threatened them with the roads and highway shit, and then
bullshit.
They pulled it back. Yeah, that was like the 70s too. So, but like, locking it. Every state that has medical first, I've always seen them get screwed when adult use comes through, right? Because here we had a really cool open capitalist, dude. We had farmers markets. We had people like. You could sample in the fucking pot shop. They have a little section, right? But then the rules came about. And so when there are no rules, you can kind of push the limits and be like, oh, well, show me the rule where it says I can't have a sampling area or whatever. Well, now they got the adult use rules. And then later on, they fucking added this other bill, which killed medical. And what they did was they used Custom Grow 420. That guy was a big YouTuber. And they took one of his videos because he used to go to medical markets and document. And it's kind of like dry snitching, right? Where a lot of this back in the day, dude, I would never record. I would never take pictures. I would never do anything. But I would just go there and be a part of it. And so, like, this guy's shit was used in testimony in the Capitol going, look, this is not medicine. This is not medical. And so, like, that is true in the sense of how you view wellness. It's a wellness option for the love of God. It's like vitamin C from oranges. It's just vitamin THC.
Yeah, exactly.
The
way that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Oh, I was just gonna say though, I think that's why I think rescheduling is so important because it locks it in as at least some sort of medicinal value, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
I get that, and then that's one thing that I can say that will come from the Schedule 3 thing is it will make the medicinal part of it legitimized. At least I just don't know how that's going to look. And that's what scares the living shit out of me. Because my thing is, and you hear everybody tout, we're going to get tax relief. We're going to get tax relief. I'm like, but they haven't defined it yet. They keep calling it medical marijuana, and the federal government has it as marijuana. So if they don't have it as marijuana, there's a run risk where we're going to be separated again like hemp. So, hemp is just separated from cannabis by definition. And so I'm fearful that medical or Schedule 3 is just going to be the same thing. And then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you'll get tax relief if you're medical marijuana, like legitimate medical marijuana. But if you're state legal adult use at all, no. And I have a feeling that's what they're going to do, because even in the executive order, they kept calling it medical marijuana. And I was like, oh, no, they're doing what I think they're going to do. And it just makes sense, to be honest, because they did it with hemp.
But the thing is, like, so like, let's just say it happens next year. They actually like establish the final like position of reschedule 3. Well, then there's more like rules and committees that need to follow. You know what I mean? None of this shit happens overnight. And as much as they may want to try, like once you do that federal parity, and then these state actors are going to be able to like, they're going to push your limits, and I mean, I would hope so, because now you got the federal backing of legitimacy, but and cops, those are the only things that we got to worry about, right? Like hemp didn't stop the cops. It fucking, you guys still get stopped in fucking going across the border checkpoints with just state illegal.
Yeah. I don't even leave my county and I have to go through one, I don't even, like I leave. So here in Las Cruces, we're the worst in the whole state. So any direction that I go, I hit an inland border check. I go north, hit a border check, east border check, west border check, south. Eventually I hit a border check. So they really have us just stuck in this little island in the south, and getting product up north is actually really hard for a lot of people that are in the industry. So there's people in Albuquerque that have never tried certain products from down here because we just can't get it up, or it's harder to get it up there because they're just a small operation. And if they get popped at the border, they lose their vehicle, they lose the product, they, all kinds of BS, they have to go through. And so it's just not worth it to them. And so it's easier just to keep it here in Cruces. And thank God we have Sunland Park, which is number 2 in sales in the whole state, with only like 20,000 people because, it's close proximity to Texas and Mexico. Yeah. They help out a lot with the people in the area because there's no border check between us and them. So we just drive down there, drop it off, and we can at least get something and go from there. But yeah, we deal with that here. And I was warning people for years about this whole border check thing. I'm like, guys, they're already messing with us here in New Mexico. You should probably I don't know, start worrying or something or talking about it, and no one cared. And now we are where we are. You know what I mean? And it's just getting worse.
Little Palestine sounds like where you're at.
You'd feel like that sometimes, we're just used to it because we're from here. Because it's just my whole life I've dealt with the border checks, because I'm from southern New Mexico. Jesus. So my whole life I've dealt with these and been questioned about my citizenship since I can remember.
Oh, same. Southern California, I grew up, and there's one right above San Diego. On the way to LA, you got to go through. Also going to Texas as a kid, I've been through them, and like my grandparents, like, shh, you're American, shut the fuck up.
Better be asleep.
No jokes.
Yeah. None of your funny shit at the border. They'll send you back. Like they used to threaten me, because we'd go to Juarez sometimes, and so they'd be like, if you make those jokes, they're gonna send you to Juarez. And I'm like, and now I'm kind of like, Juarez don't sound bad.
Not when you're older.
I know, right? It's like, oh man, when I'm older, I'm like, man, that sounds kind of fun. Like when I was 19, we used to go party there. So I'm like, oh, that's a good time. Little did I know. So hopefully something good comes from it, man. Because we can only speculate. I was just kind of curious of what your thoughts are and what you've kind of seen. Because I know you and Tom, you guys talk it out all the time. Yeah. And I've always been kind of curious to get your 2 cents on it alone too as well. And we're kind of all on the same page. And there's just a lot of we don't knows, and there's a lot of bureaucracy stuck in the middle. Because like you said, and where we left off is the federal government was going to have that hearing. And then they canceled the hearing. And so we haven't even had that hearing. That was supposed to happen over a year ago. And so that hearing was still not even the end of the process. We still had more stuff to get through. So we're looking at 2027, and I'm thinking 2028 to maybe even closer to 2029 before we see anything. And that's even if,
But again, say it actually does get approved finally. Tom always says he's got these other requirements, the CFSRA, the some other joint pacts and agreements. I don't give a fuck. We all just want legal weed, but I also don't want to be able to lose my job. Rescheduling I think would help too, because most pit tests check for Schedule 1 and 2, drugs, not 3. So eventually the rules are going to have to work around cannabis, right? Like, and a lot of it's for insurance testing is why they do it, right? For contracts, even security clearances and shit like that. Fuck, I'll never have a clearance again.
No, I had a TSSCI, and I'll never have that motherfucker again. I'll never see that. Yeah, I'll never see the inside of a skiff ever again, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like the rules will
You're
change
right.
around it. That's what needs to happen. Where
Yeah.
cops, soldiers, fucking firemen, everybody can fucking smoke weed when they want to.
Yeah.
In a rough time.
Yeah, and Gino just mentioned this too. You know, like myself, I go hunting. I have guns, and you know, it'd be nice to buy more guns. You know, because
Yeah.
I bought my guns before I was a patient, and so you know, I've just had them throughout the years, and I've wanted to stay compliant, and so I haven't purchased a new gun in who knows how long. And so criminalizing patients just wasn't the way to go. You know, because we're finding out that the Second Amendment's kind of important. You know, especially to us as Americans, you know, it's like, it's gotta be, we're being shown that, you know, okay, well, maybe we do need that.
Maybe
So, you know, like it's a tool at the end of the day, but you know, it can be used for protection if it need be. But yeah, you shouldn't criminalize cannabis patients. I mean, there's, you know, Bubba Gump over in Alabama getting wasted over in, you know, bumfuck Egypt, just shooting away in his backyard without, you know, any worry. You know, but you know, the cannabis user who's probably more smart about, you know, his gun usage too at the same time is getting attacked. You know, like it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
So you know, I what are your thoughts on the whole, you know, attacking of Second Amendment for the patients and even just a regular consumer?
Well, again, you could have like, you remember in the military where like broke your leg or whatever, they give you a prescription for some like opioid type shit, whether it be okay, I can't remember like morphine or whatever. And
my
like,
era was Ambien.
Ambien.
Ambien. People would take it, stay up past to when you're past, like, you know, you're sleepy, and then you'll start hallucinating.
Well, so like in the Navy, you get hurt, they give you a jar full of ibuprofen, right? I got hurt on a Air Force base. This motherfucker gave me OxyContin, like the biggest jar. It was a really good week, is what I can tell you. But the thing is, though, like if I were to take a piss test that week, all I have to do is show my doctor's note, and like that's okay now, right? Same difference with like guns, or you know, if you have a doctor's note, it's okay, which is dumb. Like, you know, they're trying to prevent somebody who's doing abuse, and that's a fucking hard thing to catch. You know, like and then the bills that do try to go through, like doing the psychological like flags, the red flag type shit. You know, that's more important than the fucking drug shit.
Yeah,
You know?
no, 100%. You know, like I'm with it when it comes to the psychological, mental stuff, and you know, because that is a lot of the issues that we have in our country. Is it's a mental health issue. You know, because like that's what leads people to that. Because if you look at other countries like, you know, the UK, they have a knife problem, and there's certain states that are looking, like Hawaii, they're looking to ban like knives and stuff like that in a similar fashion. And it's really not going to change much, because I mean, if someone really, really, really wants to do it, they can. Because another issue that I remember in Hawaii is there's people who would throw acid on other people. Like that happened a couple times when I lived there. Is, you know, a girl got acid thrown on her face. And that's not a knife, that's not a gun. And to be honest, you can kill somebody or disfigure them for the rest of their life much easier with that than you can with a gun or a knife. You know, like that is literally, you just splash somebody with it and that's it. You know, like
a sharp stick.
Will
take you out.
Yeah.
Just as much as a knife or a weapon or
broken glass.
Like that. Hawaii is going through that whole privacy thing. Private, you know, like, oh, sorry.
Yes, Hawaii is currently in the Supreme Court, and they're trying to say that you must get permission before you walk into any private or public premises.
Oh, that's ridiculous. You know.
Oh, that's the vampire rule,
which means every the vampire rule, which means every building that you have to have legit walk in with a weapon.
Yeah. But you know, again, prohibition has worked so well. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's one thing I keep telling people is when you make things illegal, it doesn't make it go away. You know, you just turn someone into a criminal. That's all you did. You know, like that's it. Instead of placing, you know, sensible regulations to keep people safe, you know, we just straight out ban it. And you know, even when we do try to, you know, be sensible about it, we kind of fuck that up. Because look at cannabis, you know, like a lot of overregulation, and it just in the conversation that you and I have had, I am actually kind of grateful that I'm in New Mexico, because I'm like, holy shit, I don't have to do any of that. Holy fuck. You know, and I'm grateful for it. And, you know, like I am happy to say that, like, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. But at the same time,
for now,
everyone else should be on the same page too, you know, and kind of see like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be as strict on this because it's just causing more issues. Because that's all it's done. It's just caused more issues.
Well, you know what's funny though, like the rural part, right? Like as someone who's been wanting weed legal for shit, man, at least 30 years. The rural processing is not fast. It's not. It doesn't. It's unfortunate. It can get paid for. Like I helped raise signatures for Prop 215, but I did it because I answered an ad in the paper. I was 21-ish. I needed a job, and it said legalize weed and make money doing it. I was like, fuck yeah, this is my dream job. It's my dream fucking job. But it turned out to be signature gathering, right? So like, to get in different, each state's different. I know like Illinois and Texas, I believe, are all rules got to be proposed by the legislature. Opposed to like California and Oregon, where you can create initiatives, proposals, whatever they call them in the state, and good signatures, and then it gets voted on, right? That's what happened to Prop 215. But to get to that level, ballot initiatives, all that shit. But to get to that level, you need people like to fund these campaigns, right? Like grassroots can only go so far, which sucks. Here in Washington State, there was like 3 different grassroots tries for legalization. We had Sensible Washington, all these other ones. The big one that finally did it, and they did it in Oregon too, and they did it in a couple other states, is New Approach. I don't know who this organization is, but they were well funded, organized. They got the message out. One of the things that we have here in Washington that I didn't agree with was the 0.3 nanogram like DUI or 0.5 DUI. I'm pissed as shit without smoking for like a week, whatever, which is fine. But the thing, how it explained to me is like you need these punishing rules so people feel better to vote for it, right? Like, oh, if if you're intoxicated, then we can prove it. But like that was pulled out of their ass. There's no real science behind this like 0.5 nanogram DUI bullshit. So like, but the rural process, right? Because now I do like the Washington State update where like,
we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, well, we had legalization here for 14 years.
Yeah,
and I think it's the 3rd time now we have home grow bill sitting in committee right now. Mm-hmm. The other 2 times it died. Like I didn't know that was a fucking thing. You could get a rule. So like how the rules work is there's only, I think Nebraska is unicameral. So there's one, they don't have a Senate and a House. Yeah. Everybody else has a Senate and a House, just like our United States of America.
Yeah.
And when you get a rule, so are you familiar with like, to get a rule, you can either do 2 ways. You can put one through the Senate or the House. Then once that gets approved, it goes through the other party, the House or Senate, right? Then once that gets approved, because they rewrite it or whatever they do, then it goes back and then they agree. Or you put them the same bill at the same time, and then at the end, they
just combine them.
Yeah, they accept it, right? Like, and so that's what we did here in Washington State. But the 2 times before, it's died in a gaming committee. I forget what the first one was. This one's a business committee it's in right now. But like, it could just sit there for a long time and eventually not make it out. Therefore, you'll never have the rule. So it's easy. It seems like it's just easier to say, oh, we don't want to have a change or accept the norm or accept the usual, opposed to like, hey, let's put this forward and see where it goes. Because it's just a fucking bill that needs to get voted on. It's an initiative. This is not asking for the legislature to do it. It's asking for the people to approve it. And so there's that right now. And then we just had, though, a tax increase bill that didn't get heard. So that means it didn't make it. So it wasn't proposed. Yeah. So, and then we've had many in the past, dude. We had people trying to pass bills to tax concentrates per THC percentage. We don't do that. They just do it differently. Concentrates are always just 1 percentage tax, and flowers another. I don't know. So every fucking structure is dumb and different, man. Like, that's why I think the federal parity will help a lot, so we can all kind of have the same rules. I don't imagine alcohol is kind of the same, where every state's like, you have to brew it a certain way, or this is how you got to do it. I don't know. I don't know the rules for alcohol, but the fact that we have so many for cannabis in every state's just ridiculous. It's dumb.
Yeah, and like you go from state to state, and it's vastly different. I went
Yeah.
to Austin last year, and you would think that you were like somewhere like in New Mexico or California versus Austin because of how much cannabis. Like there was freaking little hemp lounges all over the place, dude. I went to like a hemp lounge down there, and I was like, this is crazy, dude. There was hash rosin, there was flour, there was edibles. I had free cannabis drinks and. Dude, I was getting handed like 1,500 milligram drinks like nothing. I was like, this is insane, bro.
Yeah.
We were smoking actual weed at a microbrewery on top where everyone's eating and everyone hanging out. And no one gave a shit. Like, it was just real freedom is what it felt like. And I'm like, this is where we should be in acceptance of cannabis. And for some reason, it's happening in Austin, Texas. And so like that blew my mind.
It takes someone to take their chance. And again, that was probably hemp. It wasn't their THC program or whatever, the care program.
No, and we were smoking at the microbrew we brought, so that was like weed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but people thought it was just regular hemp, and I'm like, well, fucking same shit.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've heard there's a lot of like pot shops and vape stores out there, and I'm not trying to like tell my brother who lives in Texas. It's like, no, that's not really weed. I mean, it is, but it's like I don't know what you're getting, so it's hard for me to advise. Like, I don't think it's all trash, but I don't think it's all good.
No, I don't either. And I was very cautious. I didn't really smoke any of the hemp stuff. I just went to these places because I went to the legislature. So I was there with the advocates and stuff. There's a bunch of events going on at these different places. So it was cool. I got to meet the owners of like a lot of these places. Some of them have, businesses here in New Mexico because I mean, it's so close that, they'll have them in both places. And so, I found out some of the people from Austin was like, oh yeah, I got a lounge over in Albuquerque, or oh, I got a shop over in, Carlsbad or in Hobbs or something. Actually, I'm thinking about opening up in Las Cruces. Let me give you a call and, stuff like that. And so, oh yeah, dude, like there's a lot of Texans that, especially the ones from El Paso, because it's so close, that have businesses here in New Mexico that are, cannabis based.
Okay.
It's just, it's really interesting, because we just allowed anybody that had the right credentials to come in. And so we have people from all over the workplace. And to be honest, I like that because I run into people in our industry all the time. Oh, I'm from California. I used to grow there, and this is the only place I had the opportunity. And I'm like, well, that's cool. It sucks that your state didn't give you that, but hey, at least we gave you the opportunity. And we're getting some fire weed because of it. Or like, or I used to wash hash in this one place, but I decided to come here, and I'm like, well, come on in.
Well, that's the thing. Not everybody is going to be an owner operator, but like you could be a really good grower, part of an organization. With the store coming up, we, fingers crossed. I want to be an entity in a community that can self-sustain, and then just be an asset, right? Like we're working with a market that's available to us. All our products can be from licensed growers and all this whatnot. And here in Washington State, I can kind of trust my products, right? That's why I don't trust the hemp products. It's like maybe I've just been privileged and lucky enough to live in the state. I've been here since 2007. It's almost like 20 years coming up, another year. But like in that time, I've had the medical side of things where that was definitely the best grower survives, especially when we had these open markets, dude. Like I go to some of these markets, the growers would give you like a bud. So you could take it to the back and there's like a little corner where you can smoke and you can taste it. Or sometimes like no one ever mind dabs. So like you could do a dab in the middle of the floor and taste their product. And so like that was awesome and fucking tasty because people were trying to like compete fairly against each other. Like the guy across from you had just as good weed. So how much is he selling his for? How much it's not my fucking concern like what it took you to make it. I want to know who's going to give me the best weed for the best price, You're
the consumer.
Yeah, no, it was great. And then that was when we had our adult use market switch over. Now you got to have taxes, the licenses these guys are going through, packaging, which is another cost they fucking didn't expect. All the other shit to be an established business, right? An LLC, all these underground collectives were just like, all right, I'm going to go print me up a fucking logo and fucking here's my pretend menu or whatever. And like, I'm a business now. And like, it was legit because it's good weed or whatever. But like here in Washington State, when the adult use happened, prices were seriously high for like shitty weed compared to medical, compared to when these guys were like fighting for the race at the bottom was good back then because it was good weed, you know, because it was
Yeah.
medical too, where
Yeah.
there was a lot of sick people who are sensitive to metals and pesticides and all the other. I'm an asthmatic, so like I'm sensitive to certain components of it too, for my breathing. But like I'm always smoking flower, and I think it's kind of like with the more of the studies that need to be done, like consumption wise. Like I don't think smoking's all bad, even though
No.
the heat thing's probably not good for you, but we don't know the science yet because
Yeah.
we're not allowed to study it.
Yeah. And you know, what sucks is we made smoking the devil. So it's like hard for us to kind of go back on it too these days. It's like, well, we're gonna have to wait for the studies because you know, we're not too sure because the 80s and 90s, we were like, smoking anything's the devil and you're a bad person. And so now we're like kind of going back on it with the cannabis thing. So yeah, that's gonna take some science for us to kind of disprove.
Well, the smoke thing is how you inhale it, right? Because you inhale weed, and like with tobacco, you don't inhale it as deep, I don't think, with weed, right? You just, and then with cannabis, you're like, as far as you can take that bitch in, just let it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just breathing.
Yeah. And
But
I still know people actually try to keep it, like hold it in. I'm like, no, let it out, let it out.
What are you, 12?
I'm like, no, dude, this is in 1992. Let it out.
Let's go. It's like intoxication.
I know, right? You're gonna pass out. You feel higher because you're about to pass out.
You're about to choke yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of the knowledge, right? Where if we get this like federal legalization, because like recently what I've been doing, I had issues with a grinder. I was grinding my weed for like probably 4 years. Every day, anything I got, I would just grind it. And then like a couple times in the beginning of the year, you know, you catch like a seed or a stem and they're stinky, you know, and you're like, fuck, I really gotta go through my weed before I go through it. So now I break it up by hand and I make sure I get all the stems out. Because I really do think the quality of the smoke you're inhaling is different when you have like a branch stem or a seed. You know, if you just have that organic matter, that's what you're trying to get, you know. That's like the one step below the when you compress it to a rosin or something, right? Because when you get in that rosin, that's just pure THC on the outside. The the combs, the trichomes, and everything. But I think if you can separate that, all that shit. But if you can separate that heavy organic, I think that makes a difference. At least that's what I'm learning now. Yeah, you know, I've been smoking for a long time. I never really thought about it.
Yeah, and you don't, and like that's the thing about certain, and I'm glad that you're able to do that because a lot of people that have been smoking for a long time think they know everything. Like, oh, I know everything, and then they're not going to be able to learn anything. But you're at least able to learn and be like, no, I don't know everything, and you know, like there's shit we're going to find out about this plant all the time, and you know, what we know today might be wrong tomorrow. You know, just like, you know, that when we were pushing the whole THC thing and now we're like, wait, THC doesn't mean anything. We're really sorry.
No, 100%, dude.
You know, so, but thank you for that conversation and the update on Washington. I'm gonna update everybody on New Mexico real quick and then we'll end the show for today. Cause we're going over an hour and, you know, I don't want people to be sitting there too long. I know sometimes the episodes can be a little too long for people. But here in New Mexico, there's right. Yeah. Go ahead and smoke them up if you got them, y'all. I'm the one talking, not you. So here in New Mexico, the New Mexico legislature has been going on. We're in a 30-day session right now, which will end a couple weeks here in this month. But there are a couple of cannabis bills that have popped up in probably the past 24 hours. The one I want to talk about first, really short bill. It's called House Bill 283. It's called the use of cannabis in healthcare facilities. Now, what this one does is it permits a patient to be able to BYOB, bring your own bud, or it's not smokable actually, bring your own cannabis to the hospital and be able to use it. And I believe that the hospital is going to be able to administer and monitor and stuff like that.
That's cool.
We did change it into our medical cannabis law, I believe, a few years ago, like 2019, 2018, to allow medical cannabis at the hospitals. But I think that was to allow the hospitals to provide it. This is allowing the patient to bring it because I think what we found was that a lot of hospitals didn't feel comfortable with that because of federal regulations. Now, if the patient brings it, that's a total different thing and, you know, kind of a little bit different. So I think that's the reason why this bill exists. Hasn't been seen in this committee yet. It doesn't even have a date. It was just introduced. I don't even know if it's going to pass, but I see this as a positive and nothing more of a good change for the medical cannabis patients here in New Mexico. Because we were one of the few states that actually saw what happened like in Washington and Colorado and everything with the medical programs. We said, no, we need to strengthen our medical program before we legalize it. And even when we do legalize it, we need to ensure that the patient isn't going to be fucked over. So that's why we have no taxes for medical cannabis patients. 20 to 25% of all inventory at retails have to be reserved for patients. And like other things like that too. And of course, they get higher dosage of milligrams for edibles and stuff like that too. So being a patient's kind of worth it sometimes, especially that no tax, dude. Like you save 20% off the bat. Like, come on. So this bill's very short. It's only a page long. It does give the hospitals an opt out, but it's only if the federal government intervenes and kind of says, hey, if you keep allowing this, we're going to do this and this and this, and that's when they can say no. But for the most part, I think they have to implement it. So that sounds great to me. But there could be a clause, that'll allow them to opt out. And who knows? Throughout the process of the legislature, shit always changes. So that'll probably get added in or some point like that. But I'll keep this on everyone's radar. Once it advances anywhere and it has its committee date, I'll let you guys know, because to be honest, I see nothing but good stuff, positive stuff for patients in that one. What do you think, Miggy?
No, I totally agree, 100%. Here in Washington, even before adult use, though, we've had Seattle's Children's Hospital here do prescription for like oil. Now they don't provide it; they just said, "Go ahead. We recommend that your kid, for whatever reason, take some RSO or whatever." I've seen those. That's kind of cool. But like, that was never like anything that had to go through our medical funnel. Again, we did it weird where it was just like if you had a holistic caregiver's license, you were allowed to like prescribe prescription for weed, right? Like it was anybody who was being a caregiver. And then that was part of the nail in the coffin was they said, okay, you had to be a doctor to prescribe weed. And a lot of these doctors don't want to do it, because they're licensed and shit like that. But no, that's a great bill for the hospital. It locks it in, it's all about protection. That's why the home grow bill is kind of important, because medical cannabis is just an affirmative defense, and unless you have something in the books that say you're allowed to do this, they can come after you for whatever reason.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great to have that. It's more protections on us and less stigma. That does help with the stigma, because it's non-smokables and non-vapes, so it's just going to be like RSO, edibles, and topicals and stuff like that. So it's not like it's going to stink up the whole room or any area. Like that's minimal stuff. So I see that as nothing but a win for the patients if that does end up passing, which I hope we'll see during the 30-day session. We usually just focus on our budget bill, and that's really and other key things, because the governor does control what's really seen at the legislature during the 30-day session. Because it's weird. I kind of wish we didn't do a 30-day session. I wish it was at least every year a 90-day session, but it is what it is, and I would probably have to do a state constitutional amendment for that, and that's a big old pain in the ass. And I don't want to do that.
You don't take any more about that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm having enough. My hands are full of cannabis. I can't take on another thing like that. So for the next bill I want to talk about, and this one doesn't directly have to deal with cannabis, but it can. And it's called SB 47 or Senate Bill 47. It's called the Food Recovery and Composting Act. Now, what this does is it takes funding from the state and it gives I believe it's the environmental department. Correct me if I'm wrong later on, if I am wrong, but it gives one of the departments in New Mexico the ability to take some funding and give people grants to pretty much run composting businesses, so they can go to restaurants and stuff and get the food and compost it and do it at a facility and compost it. Well, this also includes cannabis. And I've been approached by people here in New Mexico because, the way that we destroy cannabis and all that, they asked us, like, is there any business that goes by and maybe destroys cannabis or, unused cannabis products? I was like, no. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, there's no one who does that. And I was like, and to be honest, that might be a great business if you can figure out how to make it profitable. And this actually might be it. From what I'm seeing is it gives 3 options. One is for grants. The other is, and then it depends what you're doing. One is up to 15% in the grant, and the other is up to 15% in the grant. I'm just not too sure what the exact category is, because the way that it's worded was a little weird. And I think once this one goes through committees, they're probably going to clean some of the language up to kind of make a little more sense. Because it sounds like you can get a full grant and be fully funded if you do it a certain way, or if you're just composting and doing something, it's only 15%, but it's still 15% that you're getting in a grant fund to help you with this composting business. And so the state will be able to contract out with these businesses, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know what the exact framework is going to look like. This was another kind of shorter bill. It wasn't that long, but there's great opportunity for people to be a part of the cannabis industry without having been a part of the cannabis industry. On top of it, you don't have to deal with just cannabis. That could just be one of your vendors that you go on your trip to go pick up compost or people's food scraps or weed scraps, whatever it is. So this one seems cool. I haven't dug too deep into it because one thing that I did see is that there will be a surcharge of $2 to $3 per ton for compost processed at the facilities. So these facilities are going to be charged per weight for composting there. So that's why I'm kind of like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, it's already kind of hard to be profitable, and you're like charging them this much. Like, oh, okay, but we'll see how it goes, and even if it makes anywhere. But I've shown this to a couple of people already, and I figured it was at least mention worthy that this is something out there, because a few people have asked about it, and have been curious. And to be honest, it is a real issue. Cannabis waste and even like trash and recycling. That's something that we're going to have to tackle in the future.
Oh, no, again, how are they? I'm pretty sure they get rid of product now, right? Like expired or whatever. So, there is definitely that option to do that, and that's kind of cool. Someone can like step up and be like, hey, isn't that crazy how there's so many auxiliary businesses with weed that can happen? Like people can like make it. Like we had some people out here trying to do a recycle thing. I haven't seen it expand much more than that, but they were having these little bins that people can bring in their jars, their old jars and shit like that to recycle. And then just the whole supply chain of things, like that's definitely a support area.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that people need and ask me about sometimes. Like, hey, we have to compost this. Is there a company that does this? I'm like, no, dude. And a lot of the times the CCD would tell you that they want you to mix the flour in with like cat litter. So that way it's usable, or throw it in compost and mix it and record it and all this shit. And what, it would be better just to have a company come over, throw him the bags, he throws it in the bin, whatever the fuck, you see it get composted, and everyone's happy. And that doesn't get thrown into like a landfill. It gets composted and sold back to farmers, whatever. So I think it's something cool, but I just wanted to bring it up in case, someone's out there thinking about doing something like this, and this might be your chance. So hit up your legislators or your representatives and let them know that you want to do this, and maybe clean up the language a little bit to make it make more sense and maybe not be as pricey for people. But I see it as a win if it does happen. So next up, I'm going to talk about this last one, and this last one, it's a bill that actually I don't like. And I was fearful of this happening in our legislature right now. For some reason, cannabis is the devil. We legalized medical mushrooms, and that had like no problems getting through anything. But, I want to change anything for cannabis, and it's just a pain in the ass right now. So cannabis stigma is just really killing me. So HB 294, it's called Cannabis Products, Packaging, and Regulation. And you could probably guess what I'm going to be talking about on this one. So what this does is it requires all of us in the cannabis industry here in New Mexico to make our packaging black and white with, I think it's sans serif or serif font is what we can use too. And so that's going to be it. Pretty much like back in the day with like beer on the front, black and white, same thing. And that's what they want to do with the cannabis industry. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to make sure that kids don't mistaken it for something, or it's not enticing to kids. But my thing about that is I feel it's a cop-out for the simple fact that, one, alcohol industry, I see freaking cotton candy and all kinds of colorful shit and all kinds of packaging, and no one cares. And to be honest, the second thing is kids can't go into dispensaries here in New Mexico. Not even if you're, accompanied by an adult or, your guardian. You're not allowed in there. So you're telling me the issue with the product is that it looks like it's a kid product, but the kids aren't even allowed there in the first place. So the real issue is when that product leaves the dispensary and it goes home, it's not being stored away from the kids correctly. So now you want the dispensary to do something about it, when in reality, it doesn't matter if that is wrapped in a tortilla. Those kids are still going to want to get to it. Like it doesn't matter if it's in that or in a pretty packaging. If it's weed, it's weed, and they're going to want it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I get it. Let's not make them look like Skittles and, put Barney the dinosaur on there. But, let's be reasonable here. There should be some creativity allowed inside of this industry. Like we've fought hard for it. And why is it being taken away out of fear? And a lot of these issues that they're talking about came from the traditional market, because that's where a lot of these packaging that they're actually talking about comes from. It's not from the legal market. It's from the traditional market, where you see like the Cheeto knockoff bags and the Reese's knockoff bags. And don't get me wrong, you have some in the regular legal industry here in New Mexico. It looks similar to other things. You have the Cookies brand. But at the end of the day, we have to stop taking blame for everything in the industry when something goes wrong. And we have to actually say, no, this actually isn't our fault. We're going to have the parents help us and do your due diligence as well, and make sure that these kids aren't getting a hold of these products.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we're going to have to stand on business with is make sure that we stay on that. Is like, no, we're not going to take blame for this. I'm sorry. Like, this is not our fault. We need to educate the parents more. Like, look, if you have a cannabis product, regardless of what it looks like, you need to make sure it stays away from kids. Like, if you have a liquor cabinet, throw your cabinets in there. It's not that hard. You know, if you have somewhere in your room where the kids can't get and you keep your room locked when you're not there, do that. Easy as shit. You know, like it's simple stuff. But like, you know, making the industry do this isn't right. And we're already overregulated as is. So you're adding more regulations on top of what we already have to do. There's already a bunch of BS on the packaging that doesn't really need to be there and the consumer doesn't really need and it doesn't care about. We're just going to add another layer of weirdness to this, and it's going to make it a little harder to compete because some people really rely on their packaging to make sales. And don't get me wrong, you know, here in New Mexico, we have billboards, you know, all over the place.
Okay.
They can do something about that versus packaging, because packaging that's being left from the shop. And most of the time here in New Mexico, you're getting a little brown bag and you can't even see what's inside of it anyway. So like, where are we at here? So what are your thoughts on this bill so far? I know it was a lot. It's just, you know, it's kind of a lot going on with it.
It's silly. Does it affect your deli style as well?
Yeah, I think so. It will. The deli style is kind of its own thing as well. Like most people are using like Mylars and shit like that, and they just put like a little sticker on it. So it's not like anything too fancy usually when it comes to deli style. I mean, don't get me wrong, there could be some who are being fancy as shit with it. I just haven't seen it yet. But yeah, that'll more than likely affect the deli style.
I mean, this sounds like they're trying to mandate packaging altogether. Like here, they took away our deli style in the beginning. Like it was straight packaging, everything's packaged, but there's no. I mean, there are ordinances on the packaging, right? Because they don't want you to, like you said, for the kids, they don't want to be, you know, like whatever. But like, that's the point. Once it gets out, no, there's not kids in the fucking pot shop.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Not, you know, they're not. So when it comes to the house, do you guys? I mean, if anything, if they want to address that issue, they should put like placards, like you know, reminding parents to store shit properly away from the kids. But because you know, we have those warnings at this checkouts. You know, like. You know, cannabis is a, you know, intoxicating product, blah, blah, blah. You know, just throw another fucking this warning sign out there, not fucking penalize everybody. That's just silly.
Yeah, you know, it's mass punishment. And you and I know from the military, that shit doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just makes somebody feel better and more in power. But like, does it fix the issue? Fuck, you know, you just pissed everybody off. That's all you did.
Cost.
So, huh?
Oh, just adding costs? You know, that'd be ridiculous for everybody to go out. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want people to change it, and some people buy packaging a year in advance. So some people are going to be losing out thousands of dollars in packaging that they already bought for that next year by doing this, and they're going to have to go in and pay an artist or pay somebody else to redo their logo, redo their design, and then if they get even further to have the state approve shit, you know, we're getting into more of the woodworks of, you know, is this an open and fair free market, or is it just something so controlled that is even worth it? You know, like it's a little ridiculous that we have to go this far for an issue that isn't really an issue, and it's not really our issue. Like I don't go home with my customer to make sure that they're storing these products correctly. That is their responsibility. You know, just the same thing with the person at the liquor store. And to be honest, kids have alcohol more accessible to them. Here in actually New Mexico, there's a law where your guardian can buy you alcohol and you can consume it at home. It's totally legal here in New Mexico. Yeah. And in Texas, you can buy beer for your kid at a restaurant. Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like you guys allow so much consumption of alcohol to minors and kids. But when it comes to cannabis, you guys are scared shitless and you're doing things that are unnecessary. I get carded almost 3 times before I finish my purchase at almost any dispensary in the nation. You know, like, and it's very, very strict. And like over in Illinois, you don't even get to see your product until you go home, really. You know, like there's situations like that.
Yeah, kids aren't buying the weed from the adult use places.
No. No. It's happening from an adult's giving it to them, a family member is giving it to them, or a friend is giving it to them. It's the same thing as, you know, the alcohol thing. Kids are either stealing it from a liquor store or they're getting it from someone they know. And that's the thing about liquor stores is it's accessible to kids. You know, they can go to a gas station. They can go to, here in New Mexico, you can go to Walmart and get liquor and beer. And these kids have access to all of those. But what they don't have access to is the dispensary. And so that's why this kind of confuses me. I'm like, well, kids aren't allowed there in the first place. So what? Like,
You know,
that
what they
doesn't make
had
any
access to is the hemp online.
Yeah, exactly. And the smoke shops. You know, like that's really the direction that you look at, not the legal cannabis model, which is working. What's not working is having this free for all with the smoke shops and everything that aren't carding people correctly, and these kids are getting those products that way, and it's getting blamed on us. Because I've seen, like in El Paso, they did have a lot of the Delta 8 and stuff like that, and the THCA stuff, and I've seen those packaging in the products from over there, and yeah, it does look misleading, and sometimes it was a fucking Cheetos bag, and they pretty much resealed it with Delta 8 stuff on it. It was that bad. Like that makes sense. Like that is confusing even for me as an adult. But that's not what's happening here in New Mexico on the adult legal side, and in most legal markets as well. So that's why I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It hasn't gone through any of its committees yet. It was just introduced. It does have its committees scheduled, but it's not scheduled for anytime soon. I looked today, the committee that it's in meets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today's Wednesday at the time of recording, and it wasn't scheduled for a hearing. So our next chance for it to have a hearing is Friday. Keep in mind, you only have a couple weeks left in the session. So its chances of passing are very low, but not impossible because it only has 2 committees in the House. And when something has 2 committees, its chances of passing are a lot higher than most other bills. Because do you know how many committees the Grow bill has over in Washington?
No, I'm not sure. And I don't understand how the committee thing works. Like the last time I died was the gaming committee. I'm like, what the fuck do gaming people have to deal with fucking home grow? Like,
So what they do is it's called death by committee. And what they'll do is they'll either schedule it too many committees, or they'll schedule it committees that don't really make sense, and then to ensure that it fails. And so if you see a bill that has like 3 committees, that's more than likely an attempt of death by committee. So that way it has too many committees and it has too many chances and changes that it's just going to die. The only time I've seen it kind of different is with the psilocybin bill. I think last year it had 3 committees, but every single committee that it went into before it hit the Senate or the House floor, because that's what they do. They go through their committees, then they go through the respective House or Senate floor, and then it moves on to the next Senate or House, and then it does the same exact thing. And so every committee it went to, every House it went to, and every floor it went to, passed unanimously, essentially. Like it had such little backlash that I was just amazed. Yeah. And that was like a very rare case where something I've seen get a bunch of committees passes so easily. And like for some reason, the most conservative Republicans in New Mexico, hard right guys that hate cannabis and everything else you throw at them, we're all for it. Just like, oh, I think this is great. I'm a veteran and I go to the VA and my buddies really benefit from using magical mushrooms. And I'm like, but you don't want to help me on cannabis, guy? Oh my God.
Seriously.
Like it's insane. Yeah. Like the stigma that cannabis has is so ingrained in everybody that even magical mushrooms, which will make you trip balls, doesn't have, well,
I think mushrooms, they don't have the stigma and aura behind them, right? Like every TV show, there's that stoner dude. And I get it. Sometimes I am that stoner dude where I'm just like locked in and be like, yeah, man, I ain't doing shit. Or
I think we all are sometimes.
You know what I mean? Like, or even like this morning when or today when I was like, oh, shit, I forgot I was gonna bring my camera and my mic so it would have better whatever for you. And I was like, well, fuck, I just gotta use the laptop. But like, did I forget it because I'm a stoner, or did I forget it just because I'm a lazy piece of shit? You know what I mean? Like, it's dumb, but like, there's not that mushroom. The mushroom ones, it's always somebody who takes it, or peyote, right? And then they have revelations, and then they're like all better shit. Like there's just definitely 2 different stigmas, and the weed one just is always, for lack of a better, just stinkier. You know what I mean? Like it just sticks to people more, and I think it's a smoking thing too, where that's part of like that's why I was like really getting into like we need to like studies on that, because as an asthmatic, like if I'm standing in front of a good barbecue and I smell like the brisket cooking, I can stand there for a little bit. It smells good. Or if I'm in front of a campfire, I'll be in there for like a second, but then I gotta get out because like, oh, this is not. I can see how you can die in a fucking fire, but I'm smoking like I am the fire most of the time. You know what I mean? The amount of smoke that goes through me, and as an asthmatic, it to me, it's both the quality of the flower that affects it, but also like how or what I'm smoking, as far as like seeds and stems or vapes or putting RSO on something. Like there's different ways to consume. But the smoking one, I think, definitely needs to be more looked at for the effects. Like, it's all bullshit. Yeah. We know people know cigarettes cause cancer, but we all want to assume everything that fucking lights up causes cancer, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, and there's studies that say cannabis helps with asthma, helps with lung capacity, but it needs to be studied more. These were studies that were done a very long time ago, and we have sciences that are more advanced now that help us study certain things that are implemented now, and sometimes that changes the results. And who knows, it could confirm what those studies have said before, or it could change it totally. But that's the thing about science, is it doesn't give a shit what your feelings are. And that's why I love it, is because it's so binary, yes or no. Is this a problem or not? What does science say? No, it is not. Yes, it is. Yeah. So, that's one thing that we're going to have to go back on, is, kind of figure out what is science saying about these products, especially with the smoking, and, with, drinks becoming more popular. And, I'm on record saying this, and I say it all the time, and I don't know if I ever told you, and a couple of my friends disagree, and that's fine. I don't mind my friends disagreeing with me. I prefer it. Drinks, I believe, in the next about 10, 15 years will be the number one way people consume cannabis. And it's for a few reasons. Number one, and this is something that I've kind of, I wouldn't say realized, but I've kind of vocalized or been able to kind of put into words recently, is the newer consumers of cannabis aren't really going towards smoking cannabis, because we're seeing a record number of people not drinking anymore or turning away from drinking. What are they used to? Drinking. So they're going to go towards the most thing that's natural, and that's the cannabis drinks. And people that I've talked to that have said, yeah, I like the cannabis drinks more than anything. Yeah, the smoke's cool, but I prefer the drinks. And I'm like, that's cool. Some of them are really yummy. Some of them are like fucking diabetic inducing, but there are some that aren't and are really yummy. One day they'll figure that out and not make them so damn sugary. But another thing is the change in attitude of people smoking and stuff too, the stigmas that come with it, and the fact that if we do want to make it more sociable in an environment that's social, we're going to have to maybe ditch the smoke in some environments, because if you go to a bar, people are drinking. They're not smoking anything. They're only smoking outside. But if I can have a cannabis drink inside, I wouldn't have to drink, and I would be happy too. So we might see these kind of shifts happen. But could I be wrong? Of course. Am I going to be wrong? Maybe. But what I'm seeing is that the drinks are starting to take over.
No, I think you're 100% on point. I'll give you this though, one more better, because like the drink thing, I didn't see blowing up the way it did. And then the gummies, right? Drinks and gummies. It's all drinks and gummies right now. But wait till people figure out you can add RSO to anything. Yeah. And that becomes an edible, right? Like, I was in a pot shop the other day, and there was a couple, I think they were like Nicaraguan or something, but like, because they weren't Mexican. But I was able to convey my little bit of broken Spanish, because I'm an Osabo, but I've been learning. Yeah. And I was like, RSO, you can, because I got from them was they're looking for their grandmother. Yeah. And first I was like, hey, some gummies. And I was like, no, here's some fucking RSO. You can Agunas. You can put this on anything. Like that's what always bugged me about gummies. It's like, why do they have these like sugary fucking nasty little candies when you could just get a syringe of RSO? I mean, if they were going to sell anything, and I think that's what the thing is. They're pushing limits, right? Because all this shit, whether it be a drink, there's a base concentrate in there, right? Some sort of emulsion. And then same thing with the gummy. It could be an RSO that's in there. It could be rosin. But like, people are mixing their shit up differently. But it's all concentrates. And if people just like, as consumers go, you know what, I want to take cannabis daily for my even balanced mental health or whatever, a little fingertip of the right size RSO can get you going a long way if you're especially not a heavy consumer. I did a whole syringe with a couple of guys. We were like trying to do like a taste testing thing. Oh my god, dude! I was for like a day and a half. It was the best fucking feeling I had for a while. But I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that again though, because I was feeling too good for a while. But it's go ahead.
Yeah, when I was younger, I made some Green Dragon, which is essentially, you just soak the cannabis in some alcohol.
Mm.
And me and a friend, without, boiling out some of the alcohol, we just took a shot. Oh man, I was drunk and high. That was crazy because it was Everclear. And so I was like, oh man. And yeah, I never did that again, but I was so high. And I was so high so fast.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it can be one of those things for sure.
And again, the average consumer is going to learn how they can consume cannabis. I think drinks are definitely going to be huge, but maybe they'll learn that they can just. Maybe it's not so much learning; it's just what's available in the market, right? Like
maybe, yeah.
Because if you were to tell people like, "Hey, here's this little tube of liquid. You put a little bit on your food, you'll be feeling good in here in a little bit." Let's give it a try.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to put it on your drink or whatever. You can just squirt a little with your hot dog and put the mustard over it, and there you go.
Yeah.
And like we talked about it earlier, in Chicago, you have one of the sporting venues over there that's offering cannabis drinks, and so it's already started. And it's been going on for a while, but now we're really seeing it. And to be honest, it's about damn time, because here in Las Cruces, where I'm at, a lot of the bars are shutting down. A couple of breweries shut down too, and so I'm like, shit, maybe we should, I don't know, kind of lean on the can, because we can do consumption lounges here. And it offers a lot of, leeway on certain things. I'm like, well, shit, let's do that. We have a whole place where we can do several different, lounges in one area, and it'd be a great fun thing. But, there's a lot of stigma on it. And of course, people that smoke and blah, blah, blah. So there we run in circles on that. And I'm like, well, let's promote more of the drinks. I don't know. Nano-emulsification's come a long way.
Well, and again, you're really in the shitty spot where you're blocked by all the border patrol checks, so you're limited to your exact immediate area, right? Like if you could just get past the check, I'm pretty sure you could develop a bigger community, even events, right? Like you could do something like that, but you still have that fun, the federal fun police in between you guys. Have fun getting product across those guys, or getting caught taking a copter above them. I don't know. Wouldn't that be a federal crime too? I don't know how that works out there, but
yeah, even trying to avoid the border check, you're kind of screwing yourself a little bit and making it worse. So and then you have the people that go through it, they think they're doing no wrong. They go, hi, I'm in the cannabis industry, here's my badge, I have 5 pounds in my trunk. And they just oust themselves when the border patrol agent was just going to say, are you an American citizen, and let them go. And this dude just came up and just big old weed hat and shit, just smoked a doobie. And I'm just like, oh, no wonder why you got popped.
And again, it's not a good time to prove a point.
It's not. But, we shouldn't be, targeted like that in the first place.
Never.
We shouldn't, because, some people just see it as something like, I'm not doing anything wrong, so why should I hide from the authorities?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be as transparent as I can, because that's how I am in the state. And so, it's unfortunate that's happening to us. So it's hard here. And I'm glad we did things the way we did, because if we did it any other way, it would probably be struggling a lot more.
100%, right? Like you need support from the state to help you get through these hurdles until we have federal parity, right? Because until then, you're just a piece of shit stoner.
Oh yeah, I know, and they treat me like that all the fucking time, and I get it. And then the only thing that saves grace for me sometimes is having my my veteran status, or my veteran hat when I talk to politicians. So yeah,
that's it, man.
Heck yeah. But anyway, Miggy, thank you so much for the conversation, brother. That's everything I have for this week. It was a great convo, brother. I can't wait to get another update on you. Maybe the next time we update it, you're going to be at the shop doing the interview from. So maybe we can hope for that.
Me too. I hope. Thanks, man. It was good being with you, man.
You too, brother. Maybe I can next time I'm in Washington, I'll hit you up. Maybe we can go
that'd be fun. We do a little sesh.
Hell yeah, brother. So, all right, man. Well, you have a good day. This will show air tomorrow. So by the time you guys are watching this, it's already aired. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, whatever you got to do to stay in the know. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Shoots.
Word.